Hurricane warnings are in effect for Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic as Fiona strengthens and heads for land. Hello, I'm Mike Naso with this late Saturday night video update on the tropics. Fiona is the only game in town. There it is in the eastern Caribbean Sea, getting much more of that hurricane shape to it, although it still has some structural disadvantages and some shear to deal with. We'll talk about all this. Here's the latest as of 11 p.m. from the National Hurricane Center on Tropical Storm Fiona. It was at 16.6 north, 64.9 west, winds of 60, so it is a moderate tropical storm, and forecast to become a hurricane over the next 12 to 24 hours, moving west-northwest at 8. And that's not a very fast motion, and that's going to prolong rainfall, which is the main threat with this system. There are watches and warnings out. We'll get over those in a second, but you can see there's the track, west-northwest, near or over Puerto Rico tomorrow, Sunday night, and then near or over the Dominican Republic on Monday as a hurricane. Category 1, we think, and then becoming a stronger hurricane, maybe even a major hurricane, as it turns around the periphery of the ridge and eventually gets turned out to sea, although Bermuda, you would be in the crosshairs potentially by Thursday or Friday. Nevertheless, it could take the left side of this cone and move over areas of the Dominican and Haiti and over the Turks and Caicos and Bahamas, or it could take the right edge and cross Puerto Rico and head more directly for Bermuda. We do have the watches and warnings, as I mentioned. I'm going to go over them. We have a hurricane warning for Puerto Rico, including Vieques and Culebra, and the north coast of the Dominican Republic from Cabo Casido to Cabo Francis Viejo. And so this area here in the red and Puerto Rico, you guys are under the hurricane warning. So expect hurricane conditions and higher wind gusts in the higher elevations. A hurricane watch is in effect for the U.S. Virgin Islands and the north coast of the Dominican Republic from Cabo Francis Viejo west to Puerto Plata. And we also have tropical storm warnings for the British Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the north coast of the Dominican Republic, and a tropical storm watch here on the south coast of the Dominican Republic, with a possibility that as the system moves towards the west-northwest, those winds might clip the southern coastline there of the Dominican Republic. Here's the satellite imagery, and again, not a lot of organization near the center. It needs to tighten up a little bit, although there are some indications the wind field has tightened slightly, and you can see there's still wind shear. I say that a lot in these updates, you could see, but I'm telling you, you could see. I can't help it but say that. You can see there's a lot of wind shear still from the southwest, and thank goodness for it, guys, because if this did not have wind shear, it would probably be a significant hurricane, and it still is probably going to become a nasty one. There's the thunderstorm activity bubbling up, and this is the main problem, the rainfall, and that is going to cause flooding in areas of Puerto Rico and especially the Dominican Republic. I can't stress that enough with this tropical storm. Here are the computer models, and they continue to take it west-northwest, and then northwest, and then north, and then eventually northeast. And so the likelihood is that this will not impact the United States unless, well, you count Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico is not, I don't count Puerto Rico as the United States as a territory, but I've caught a lot of heat for that. But when I was growing up in the 90s and we would talk about the costliest U.S. hurricanes, we'd maybe have an asterisk for Puerto Rico with some hurricanes, but nevertheless, I'm talking about for the mainland United States, this should not be a direct landfall threat. However, Puerto Rico, you're going to get a landfall or close to it. The Dominican, landfall or close to it. Turks, Caicos, Bahamas, you guys might get into it, to say nothing of Bermuda, and then Nova Scotia and Newfoundland up here later on from what could be a very powerful post-tropical cyclone, if not even still a hurricane. So this is going to bear watching if you're in those land areas, but right now the indication is it's eventually going to turn on out. Thank goodness if we had high pressure building in, this thing would be forced right into the Florida coastline. The storm surge is going to be a threat here all along the south coast of Puerto Rico, as well as Vieques and Culebra. St. Thomas, you guys could have 1 to 2 feet, same in St. Croix, especially where you have that onshore flow. So around the circulation center, you get the winds flowing like this, and you have water pile up. Thankfully, even if this becomes a hurricane, a Category 1 will not cause a terrific surge along the coast, but still a water rise there in areas of Ponce and along the south coast of Puerto Rico. Rainfall, that is the threat. 15 to 20 inches here along the south coast near Ponce, and 10 to 15 inches along the southeast coast. Vieques, 8 to 10 inches. Culebra, 6 to 8 inches, St. Thomas 6 to 8, St. John, even St. Croix 6 to 8 inches. And this will also be with these feeder bands on the right side of the storm. So even when it's making landfall, let's say near Cabo Rojo here, you'll have the right side with all the rain still impacting the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Here are the risks for our storm, and again, this is as of 5 p.m., but not much has changed. Winds between 60 and 75 with gusts up to 90 across Puerto Rico and St. Croix, and then elsewhere winds of 35 to 45 with gusts to 70. That's why we have that hurricane warning in effect. And then we have rainfall 10 to 15 inches with locally higher amounts, elsewhere 6 to 10, and high seas up to 15 feet, waves crashing on top of that, life-threatening rip currents, and a slight chance of waterspouts. Now, this is out of the National Weather Service in San Juan. So that's telling you they are forecasting for you to have to hunker down there in Puerto Rico because this is going to be quite a lashing from Fiona, and it looks like it'll be a hurricane if and when it either comes very close or makes landfall. There it is in Spanish for the Spanish-speaking people. Here's the radar out of San Juan, and I mentioned before, it's been having trouble curling up here, so don't be deceived. It can be deceiving. It looks like, oh, look, it's moving this direction. No, it's trying to get itself together and organized, but once it does, that's when it's going to strengthen, and so we will see it become a hurricane probably when it's over in this area here. And again, this water between Hispaniola and Puerto Rico here, this is the Dominican Republic, and this is Puerto Rico. This is the Mona Passage in here. And in 1998, Hurricane George crossed Puerto Rico as a Category 3 hurricane. It was actually a Category 2 operationally, but it was strengthening, and then it strengthened between Puerto Rico and the Dominican, moving west-northwest over the Mona Passage. Hurricanes can take advantage. We also had Hurricane Marilyn in 1995, which hit the islands, and I believe it just missed Puerto Rico to the east of it. But that was a Category 2 hurricane strengthening into a 3, but it caused a lot of wind damage. So hurricanes that are strengthening as they hit are worse than if they're steady or weakening, because you get those winds bursting down more. So if Fiona does become a hurricane, especially in those higher elevations of Puerto Rico and the Dominican, you could have some nasty winds. There's another look at it on the water vapor imagery, and there's that wind shear I talked about impacting it still. However, once it gets out here, it should have a much better environment, especially as it kind of moves with the shear and ends up turning. Thank goodness for Florida. I'm telling you, you guys right here in Florida, you're not going to have to deal with it because of that weakness that it's going to find. The weakness here from the troughiness over Florida is breaking down the ridging, and that's going to allow Fiona to move out, but not before impacting Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, and maybe the Turks and Caicos Islands. You guys have to watch it very, very carefully. As well as areas for the rest of the tropics, we do have some indication that the Caribbean and the Gulf might have something towards the end of the month. We're going to keep an eye on that. This is the GFS ensemble, and there's a lot of systems off Africa, a lot of low pressure, but nothing of note. The European model is showing a little bit more life here, with a wave making it under the radar off Africa and doing something here in the Caribbean Sea. And we can see that even better on the 18Z GFS model, which makes this system a hurricane, a strong hurricane, a major hurricane. Watch this. Around October 27th, or September 27th, it comes around the west coast of Florida. Look at that again. It hits western Cuba as a hurricane, the Florida Keys as a hurricane, and then rolls on along the west coast of Florida. Watch that again. Boom, boom, boom. And that's the 18Z GFS. Now, it's a long way out, and it's just one model run, but we are seeing some indications of that. These are the ensemble members from TropicalTidbits.com. Levi Cohen, he does great videos, has a great website. There it is. The wave makes it all the way through the Caribbean, and we're getting some indications that we might see something happen, and that would be around September 29th or so. So we're still talking 2 weeks away, but it's something to keep an eye on. And there's the GFS model showing a monster hurricane impacting the Keys and Cuba and western Florida sometime around early October. Take it with a grain of salt, but I thought I'd show you. So that'll do it for the tropics. Watching Fiona, an impact to areas of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola as a hurricane tomorrow. I'll be back with continuing coverage on our YouTube page.